You've been looking at shadows your entire life and calling them real. Picture this. You're chained in a cave, facing a wall. You've been there since birth. Behind you is a fire you've never seen. Between you and the fire, people carry objects that cast shadows on the wall in front of you. Those shadows are all you've ever known. They're your entire reality. You give them names, you study their patterns. You build your whole understanding of existence around shapes on a wall. Then someone breaks your chains. This isn't just an old story. It's a warning about the life you're living right now. Around 380 BC, Athens was recovering from a brutal war. Democracy had failed. A tyrant had ruled. Then democracy came back. People were confused about what was true, what was right, who to trust. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone claimed to know the answers. Plato watched this chaos and realized something most people never see. The problem wasn't that people believed the wrong things. The problem was that people didn't know they were wrong. They thought they understood reality. They didn't. They were staring at shadows and calling it truth. Sound familiar? You scroll through social media and think you're informed. You watch the news and think you understand the world. You read headlines and form opinions about complex situations you've never experienced. You're confident, you argue, you're certain you're right. But what if you're just watching shadows? So what did Plato see that everyone else missed? Plato tells this story in his book, The Republic. A group of prisoners have been chained in a cave since childhood. They can't turn their heads. They can only look forward at the cave wall. Behind them is a fire, and between them and the fire is a raised walkway where people carry objects. The fire casts shadows of these objects onto the wall. That's all the prisoners see. Shadows, they don't know they're shadows. To them, the shadows are reality. They give the shadows names. They predict which shadow will appear next. The smartest prisoners are the ones who can predict the shadow patterns most accurately. They're praised. They're considered wise. They're experts in shadows. One day, a prisoner is freed. Someone breaks his chains and forces him to stand. He turns around. The fire hurts his eyes. He's confused. He sees the objects being carried and realizes the shadows were just projections. His whole reality was a lie. Then he's dragged out of the cave into sunlight. It's worse. The light is blinding. He can't see anything. He wants to go back to the cave where at least things made sense. But slowly, his eyes adjust. First, he sees shadows outside the cave. Then, reflections in water. Then, actual objects. Finally, he looks up and sees the sun itself. He understands now. The shadows in the cave weren't real. The objects casting the shadows were more real, but still just physical things. The sun, the source of all light and life, that's what's ultimately real. Everything else is derivative. He's overwhelmed. His entire worldview has been shattered and rebuilt. And then he remembers the other prisoners still in the cave. He goes back. He has to tell them. He climbs back down into the darkness, but his eyes have adjusted to sunlight. Now the cave seems impossibly dark. He stumbles. He can't see the shadows clearly anymore. The other prisoners, who never left, are still experts at predicting shadows. They look at him, stumbling, and laugh. This guy used to be sharp. Now he can't even track the shadows properly. He tries to explain what he saw. The fire, the objects, the sun, the real world. They think he's insane. They think the outside world damaged him. They say, if that's what happens when you leave the cave, it's better to stay. Some prisoners get angry. If he keeps trying to free them, they might kill him. Watch what Plato does here. He's not just telling a story about caves. He's explaining why people reject truth, even when you show it to them. Especially when you show it to them. The prisoners aren't stupid, they're not lazy. They've built an entire system of knowledge based on shadows. They have experts, they have predictions that work within their limited reality. They're comfortable, and you're telling them it's all fake, that everything they know is wrong. That's not enlightenment to them. That's a threat. Now think about your life. What are your shadows? What do you think is real that's actually just a projection of something deeper? You think money is success. Money is a shadow. What's casting it? Your need for security. Your fear of being worthless. Your belief that value comes from external validation. You're watching the shadow and calling it real. You think relationships are about finding the right person. That's a shadow. What's casting it? Your inability to be at peace alone. Your need for someone else to complete you. Your fear of facing yourself. You keep chasing the shadow instead of looking at what's creating it. You think knowledge is about collecting information. Another shadow. Real knowledge is about seeing what's true regardless of what information you gather. You can memorize 1,000 facts and still be completely blind to reality. The prisoners in the cave had extensive knowledge about shadows. They were still prisoners. This is what Plato understood. Education isn't about filling your mind with information. It's about turning your whole being in a different direction. The prisoner who escaped didn't learn new facts about shadows. He learned shadows aren't real. That's not new information. That's a complete transformation of perception. And here's what makes it brutal. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to believing the shadows are real. You see through them. But everyone else is still in the cave, and they think you're the crazy one. They're still arguing about which shadow is better, which pattern means what, who's the smartest shadow interpreter. And you're standing there trying to explain that shadows aren't the point. They'll call you pretentious. They'll say you think you're better than them. They'll say you've lost touch with reality. And maybe they'll be right in a way. You have lost touch with their reality. Because their reality is shadows. This is why Plato said philosophy is dangerous. Not because of what you learn, but because of what you lose. You lose your comfortable ignorance. You lose your certainty. You lose your ability to engage with shadow talk as if it matters, and most people never forgive you for that. So what do? You can stay in the cave. It's easier. You already know how it works. You can predict the shadows with everyone else. You can be considered smart. You can be comfortable, or you can walk out into the light and go through the painful process of adjusting your eyes to reality. Most people choose the cave. Not because they're weak. Because the cave is familiar. The sun is terrifying. The sun shows you how wrong you've been about everything. It shows you that the life you've built is based on shadows. That's not a comfortable realization. That's ego death. But if you choose to walk out, if you choose to question what you think you know, if you choose to look for what's casting the shadows instead of just analyzing the shadows themselves, your life changes completely. You stop arguing about surface-level things. You stop being impressed by people who are just really good at shadow interpretation. You start asking different questions, deeper questions. What's the source? What's actually real here? What am I mistaking for reality that's just a projection? You become someone who sees through the game while everyone else is still playing it. Plato didn't tell this story to make you feel smart. He told it to show you how hard real knowledge is, how painful, how isolating, and how necessary. Because living in the cave might be comfortable, but it's still living in chains. You're still a prisoner. You just don't know it because everyone around you is in chains too. The sun is still out there. The real world is still out there. You can stay in the cave and be comfortable, or you can walk out and see what's actually real. Plato can't make you choose, but he can show you the chains. Most people never even notice they're wearing them. Subscribe if this landed.